Film noir is the cinema of paranoia, of doubt and fear and uncertainty, which blossomed in the wake of World War II as the Allies' victory was purchased at the cost of the specter of instant annihilation by forces seemingly beyond our comprehension. All cinematic genres have a social and historical context. The stories and lives they portray, the visual design, and the questions they raise are all bound to what is real and current in the world at the time of production. Cinema is art made with intent. The term film noir is French for dark film. Their stories commonly play out against the backdrop of night, though not always. The reference to darkness isn't just about their visual design, but the themes explored in noir tend to be heavy and dark as well. The most commonly known noir types are hard-boiled detective stories, gangster dramas, or films exploring the plight of doomed lovers. They are most often shot in black and white and framed in a bleak and atmospheric way. Fog, shadows, and smoke are often used to represent the uncertainty and ominous nature of the world at large. The world of noir is dark, hazy, indistinct, and rather unwelcoming. While these types are most common, they are certainly not the only stories told by film noir. Noir, in many ways, is both a genre and a style. A film's style refers to its particular use of the formal visual elements. Noir is an overall aesthetic which impacts the narrative as well as the look of a film. Noir itself was never a standalone genre, but rather a pervasive worldview that shot through works in a wide variety of cinematic staples: horror and science fiction films, teen exploitation films, and even musicals, to name just a few of the many genres that noir has influenced and continues to do so to the present. Beautiful, dark, and bleak, classic noir films offer no safe haven for their characters or the viewer following along. The stories play out in these shadowy worlds and are populated with desperate people, often forced to commit desperate acts. Discussing the noir musical Gold Digger, Dixon et al. Assert, the American dream is on trial in many pre-code dramas. These musical vignettes, famously directed by Busby Berkeley, include scenes of fallen and wounded veterans, desperate women prostituting themselves, murder, poverty, starvation, and class struggle. The film ends with an indictment of society at large in the famous Remember My Forgotten Man musical number, which is a noir cry for help for forgotten men and women. Just as social and historical context impact the production of films, another critical component to production is budget. The Maltese Falcon, produced in 1941, is a good example of a highly polished, big-budget noir. The film was directed by John Huston and starred Humphrey Bogart as a private investigator hot on the trail of a jewel-encrusted falcon. The film was adapted from the novel written by Dashiell Hammett in 1929. The Maltese Falcon offers a great example of incident control. Incident control is a method used to control the tonal range of brightness in a film by controlling how much light falls upon objects within the frame. Film noir, horror, and suspense stories often emphasize incident control of their grayscale. The grayscale is simply the tonal steps from black to white. The visual structure of film noir is high contrast. The lighting setups were, and still are, often low-key setups. Low-key lighting creates greater contrast between the light and dark areas of the frame. The white areas of the frame are bright, while the black areas of the frame are very dark. The greater the contrast in a visual component, the more the visual intensity or dynamic increases. This visual style works very well with the style of noir narrative, which so often deals with scheme and betrayal. Contemporary noir, or neo-noir, explores many of the same issues we see in classic noir films. The inherent cynicism of noir is ever present in these newer films. A great example for discussion is the film Get Out, written and directed by Jordan Peele in 2017. Get Out explores the deep-seated cynicism and suspicion of racial animus between white Americans and black Americans. The film uses low-key lighting and deep shadows as well as bright scenes during the day, illustrating the existence of two worlds in the narrative. As our protagonist becomes more and more suspicious of his role, he becomes a classic noir character, a desperate person driven to commit desperate acts to survive in a dark and dangerous world. Like most noir characters, his fears are not without reason. He is, in fact, in great danger of not just the physical kind, but also psychological danger. Another dark and deeply cynical movie is Seven, directed by David Fincher in 1995. The narrative in Seven contains a serial killer who seeks to illuminate the collective failings of a society he feels has descended into ethical chaos. He does so by staging his victims based upon the 7 deadly sins. The protagonist, a young detective, works along with his older partner to solve the mystery of the killer, as well as catch him before he continues his morbid work. Their efforts are horribly rewarded with the knowledge that they themselves have been part of the morbid plan all along. The style of Seven, both the narrative and the visual design, is very dark. Even during daylight scenes, we are given rain. Chiaroscuro and low-key lighting are used throughout, and our detectives are always toiling in the shadows. The rain and shadows paint a miserable world for the story to take place in. And in classic noir fashion, our detectives are treated to a terrible ending. Film noir functions as a genre as well as a style. The low-key lighting and use of diffusion works well as representations of uncertainty, creating apprehension in the characters as well as the viewer. Noir films don't have happy endings. They work to discuss issues which deal with the darker side of humanity. They are suspicious and violent films prompting the viewer to think deeply about larger societal issues related to ethics, power, and control.